Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Todd Frick and Corey Collins. And Linda Lowe. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here. Dispense with reading your minutes.
Third order, no business at this time.
All right. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have two quick ones. So I know it's a little early, but Holy Rosary will be having their block party Friday, June 14th, 6 to 11, and Saturday, June 15th, 5 to 11. They have great food, a beer tent, games, raffles, live music being played by Mason Dixon Band. So it's a good stop. I've been there the past couple of years. The food is fantastic. So yesterday I attended a very well-attended and moving Memorial Day ceremony at the Ukrainian Veterans Association. It's better known as the Ukavets on Railroad Avenue in Scranton. They were honoring a brave local man named Private Louis J. Cipriano, who gave the ultimate sacrifice for his country in September of 1943 in Italy. So the ceremony was beautiful and very touching. So, and it was a local guy, so it was very moving. That's all I have right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have one thing. I also attended the same ceremony. It was a nice ceremony that they had down on Railroad Ave for Memorial Day, honoring one of our local heroes. I know it was announced last week, but DPW is going to be a day late with the Memorial Day holiday. Just so everyone knows, your garbage will be picked up one day later. That's all.
Thanks.
Mr. Smurl, Robinson Park is going to have a plant rescue event on Sunday, June 2nd, from noon till 1:30 p.m. As many of you know, the renovations are currently underway at Robinson Park. They're asking people to help rescue native saplings before the proposed Woodland Wellness Trail is constructed. The plants will be transported to a new rescue nursery at McDade Park and eventually used in future riparian plantings. Volunteers should bring their own shovel. And that's Sunday, June 2nd from noon to 1:30 p.m. at Robinson Park. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. I also attended a Veterans Memorial down at Memorial Stadium. I had done that last year, and I know everyone was going to be at different ones, but that is the one I attended. And also, the city has now online to report potholes. So it went up online maybe 2 days ago. If you go on scrantonpa.gov and you scroll down, you will see, if you tag on that, and then it will say report your pothole. You can put a picture in, or you can put just the address or wherever it is at. The more detail you get, the easier it will be for them to find it. I was told in one day, I believe they got 30 calls the first day, so only 300,000 more to go. Scranton tomorrow is having a dedication for Doherty Park. It's the public's invited to attend. It's Mark Marcinko Jazz Quartet will perform at the dedication Friday, May 31st at 4 p.m. It's at 400 Linden Street downtown. And this is also for Scranton tomorrow. Their City Pride. It's a volunteers keep Scranton beautiful through cleanups, plantings, recycling programs, and more. This is going on throughout Scranton from May 31st to June 8th. And that is all I have.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
First, Joan Hodowanis.
Joan Hodowanis, Scranton. Well, the next book sale for the Scranton Public Library will be June 4th through the 8th. That's next Tuesday through Saturday. And it'll be at the Marketplace at Steamtown on the second floor in front of Crunch Gym. Excellent opportunity to get some quality books at very reasonable prices, like $1 or $2. You get some great books for your kids for summer reading, so they have a good thing to read. Also, June 7th, 5 to 8 p.m., will be the public library's major fundraising event, and that's Swinging on Vine. And that'll be in front of the library. Tickets in advance are $20, $25 at the door. Before that price, you get entertained by Picture Perfect all night long outside. You get as much wine, beer, margaritas, and picnic food as you can eat. You can eat your way into oblivion, especially if you're like me and live downtown and you don't have to drive anywhere. And it is the library's major fundraiser. Speaking of the library, you know, next month all the Scranton public schools close for the summer. One entity that never closes and provides programming year-round for children from 0 to 18 years is the Scranton Public Library. We also have the County Children's Library right next to the public library on Vine Street. So if parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles want something productive for their kids to do, the library, all kinds of programs, and the cost to the family and to the child is $0. All you need to do is ask for a library card if you don't have one, and that's your ticket to adventure and education and fun all summer long. Also, just a reminder, NEPA Gives, June 6th and 7th, which is an online donation to your favorite charity. My favorite charity, you might have guessed, is the Scranton Public Library. So that's coming up. Yes, again, the union contracts are still in limbo. I will keep a running tally of the number of days, and I realize that it's a work in progress. Firefighters contract, 419 days, and the police is 304 days. I saw an interesting article in the paper this week about interns, so working for various politicians. In the article, it mentioned that there was a young man, John Sinclair, that interned with the mayor. And I just want to point out that our local schools have degree programs in social justice, social work, and criminal justice, and finance, and economics. A lot of opportunities for internships within City Hall and elsewhere within the city. So I hope we try taking advantage of that. It's a win-win. It's a productive thing for the city, and I mean, you don't have them making coffee, and it's a productive thing for the student who's looking to get some practical work experience and to network, and hopefully they will be able to stay in the area. Okay. Item 5D, the MOU with the Scranton Redevelopment Authority. It references housing opportunities and economic development in North Scranton. Why is the MOU limited to North Scranton? Does anyone know?
I had several questions about this document.
Okay.
I don't know.
Got it today.
Yeah, when it comes up in fifth order, if you can discuss that. And 5E, the Weston Field Skate Park, I think that's a great idea, but can you also talk in fifth order about the city's legal liability for kids that might get injured, where there'll be adult supervision of that park? What are the hours going to be? I think it's a great idea, but I think someone needs to look at those issues before such a thing is done to protect not only the kids that might use it, but the city's legal liability. And that's all I have for tonight.
Joan, in their contract, I read for the
Yeah.
skate park, the first item on their agenda is community outreach, to meet with the public and to discuss all of this, and I
Yeah.
believe to lay out the plans and all of
I
that.
just would hate to see this, be blessed and set in concrete and then asking the questions after the fact. I think, those questions should be answered because the city does not need more lawsuits. We don't have a good track record.
Thank you. Norma Jeffries?
Norma Jeffrey, city resident. And the first thing that I wanted to mention tonight was 7, I guess it's 7A, and you're going to be doing the final resolution on the update. I guess that's coming out of the homeroom charter. So I was wondering, I read it last week, and I wondered, what prompted this and why just this one section out of the homeroom charter. That was my summer reading last summer, and there's so many things in there that need to be updated. So I was wondering why just this one piece is being updated and, becoming a part of the resolution for tonight. So I was just wondering about that as well. And again, I don't know what has happened to the sound system in here, but it is not working again. The speaker there, unless you're sitting right underneath it, you cannot hear anything. Last week, Joan Marie was here, and we both said, we cannot hear in the back. So, after you go home and you listen to the, the recording on ECTV, to hear what you gentlemen and Dr. Rothchild have said when you go through the different discussion that you have after we're up here at the podium, because by then we can't ask any other questions. So tonight, the things that I took note of after I listened to the broadcast at home was, Mr. King, you had mentioned about the collection and the reports on the code enforcement as to what kind of reports were being given to either the council or to the city residents as to how many violations there are and different things like that you mentioned last week. But one of the questions, I've had those same questions because we have a wonderful code enforcement in my neighborhood, and I see them all the time putting those little stickers on people's houses. But I just wonder what happens to that. How long do they have to clear that situation? And then if there is a fine associated with the violation, what happens to that money? Is that calculated separately in a separate fund that goes back to the code enforcement to keep their vehicles running? Or, I know it's new and I know it's only been around for a while, so maybe those kinds of things aren't resolved yet. But that's the kind of questions I had as you mentioned it last week and as I see the cars going around the city. So that was just something that prompted those questions. And one of the things that Dr. Rothchild, I'm sorry that she's not here to hear my concern when she talked about the housing. And I guess it was a housing committee. And I wondered, I looked in the paper, I still get the paper, and I looked in the paper to see if I could see who comprised that committee. Was there anyone out there that looked like me on that committee? And the only reason I say that is when we talk about housing and low-income housing, what are the percentages of people that are on those committees? As well as they talked about the gang violence committee as well. And I was concerned about that, so I did speak to some people around the city, and they told me that it was an afterthought that some other people were invited to that committee, which should not be, because how can you solve these situations and problems if you haven't walked that path? If you haven't gone down that path of being homeless, if you haven't gone down the path of being maybe not in a gang, but know someone that's in a gang or tried to help someone to get out of that situation, I don't understand how you can help someone and develop a plan. So that's what I was looking for in the papers. I did not see it. I was looking for an action plan. And any of you that's been in the business world, you know you make your action plan. You have the action plan, who's responsible, your first date, your second date, and when you're going to be completed. And I don't see any of that anywhere as to the planning and the action plans that are going into these different committees. And another thing that I wanted to look up was when I first started coming here to City Council, one of the things that I heard was, now this is back in 2018 maybe, or 2017, and council talked about coordinating with the gas company and the water company on the digging up of our streets. My street is beautiful now, and we have it, it's all nice and paved. I saw, what's that road? Not River Road, but when you go up to get on 81. You know, it's all paved and it's marked and everything. So how long will it be before those streets are dug up and we'll have big holes and everything in our streets again? So I wondered what happened to that coordination that was supposed to go on between the city, the water company, and the gas company. And that's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, Mr. Voldenberg. I believe we have a list I gave you of all of the people on that board. If we still have a copy of that, we can get one to Norma.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Mr. Voldenberg, can we also ask what kind of communication goes on between us and the gas company and the other utility companies when we're doing paving projects? I know I asked it to Mr. Preambo when he was here, but I haven't asked it since.
I'll get the information.
Thank you.
And also, Mr. Voldenberg, I had asked those questions last week that Norma had brought up, and I don't believe we've gotten any answers on
No, we
that
have
yet.
not received the response from the administration.
But if you took down some of the questions that she had asked, if we could add that to the list as well, I'd appreciate that.
I noted them. I'll add them.
Thank you very much.
Were they questions about the task force or the committees that have been set up?
No, this had to do with code enforcement and
Gotcha.
time frame and payments and where does the money go? Does it go back in the general fund or things like that?
Mr. Ellman?
Everybody got to see my pretty face another minute. Yeah. The past 2 weeks, I had 4 or 5 people ask me to ask y'all again if maybe something could be worked out with Johnson Tech for some care for small animals, like cleaning their ears and their nails, and for seniors and low-income people. The thought being, some people might be able to keep their animals if they could avoid all the expense like I told you I incurred last week. And next on the code enforcement, I guess you want to cleanse all this dead weight, but you got to eliminate the plumbing and electrical and construction permits. That seems like a big sum of money coming in, or supposed to come in. Now, let me get off the subject for a minute, but it's about Scranton. My ex-wife died a couple of weeks ago, and the people that occupy her house phoned me. They want to send me her remains and the remains of her parents. And I told them I don't want it. You know, I'm trying to be socially acceptable terms, but so many people like me, I have no place. I got my son, my brother, and Rose's brother. There's nobody in the family wants those. I just wondered if there was, if it would be possible for the city to get an area in one of the cemeteries that are in such disrepair to put these remains inexpensively. I don't know the legalities, of course, but if it's already a cemetery, and some of them look terrible. It was on television a couple of days ago. And it could probably be done, you know, with someone that knows how to do things like that. It's just a thought. And one other thing. Somebody told me if you people could get a hold of an old mailbox and put it out front for suggestions, it might work good for the city, because there's so many people that they just won't come down here, and they don't phone you, evidently. It might be something positive. I woke up, I walked my dog at 1 o'clock this morning in the yard. I woke up about 2:30, and I stayed up. I couldn't go back to sleep. Miss Rosie told me it must be the glee in my system that it's Tuesday and I get to see everybody down here. That's a compliment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Les Spindler?
Evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Councilman Schuster, Trip Park garbage wasn't picked up today, so it's going to be 2 days late. We were supposed to get picked up today. Recyclables did, but not the garbage. A few weeks ago, I called DPW that a hole opened up on Dorothy Street down by the ball fields where the new storm drains were put in. And the next day, they came and patched it. I was walking my dog. I go by there almost every day. A few days ago, that hole opened up again. And it's not coming out. It's settling. It's sinking in. So I'm no engineer. I'm no expert, but I don't think they allowed for settling of the ground there. And though that hole keeps opening up. And even all along the curb, they paved it. When they paved, right after they paved it, everything was going into storm drains. Now, like I said, I'm no engineer, but you can see it's settled, and now there's all puddles along the curb now. And it wasn't when they first fixed it, so they didn't allow for settling. So, I don't
Wes,
know.
do you have the exact address of where that is? 1800 of Dorothy. Frank, if you could contact DPW. Back
I
and
made
look
note
at
of
that.
it. I'll
It's right where the
contact
new storm drains are, right like by the basketball courts on the other side. While we're on Dorothy Street, right there again, where the ball fields end, it's they have batting cages. Right past the batting cages, outside the fence, there's about an 8 by 10 foot area that nobody's taking care of. The weeds are like 2 to 3 feet high. And last year I saw one of the Parks and Recreation guys mowing the lawn across the street. And he said he'd go over with the weed whacker, and he did that, but it's like that. So I think it's the responsibility of the softball people. And they just stop at that one point. And right there, there's a storm drain that's covered over. The water can't even get down there.
It's the piece outside of the fence, right?
Yeah, it's right off the sidewalk. Yeah. Nobody seems to want to do it. Like I said, it's like 2, 3 feet high. Next thing. A few weeks ago, Virgil Argenta talked here about the new traffic lights on Main Avenue where it meets the expressway. They go black for a while, going towards North Scranton. And I go by there every single day, and it's still like that. As a matter of fact, it was last Thursday or Friday. There was an accident right there. I don't know if that was the cause of it, but I think it's safe to say it probably was. I don't know why that happens, but when the lights change, they go black for a while. That's a safety hazard. And like I said, there was an accident a few days ago there.
Well, ask Mr. Voldenberg to contact the, I guess it would be the Scranton Police, right?
I'll contact DPW, the Traffic
Okay.
Division,
Thank you.
to investigate. Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, the corner I live on, Dorothy and Bulwer, was promised over 2.5 years ago that that's going to be fixed. And so far, nothing. They said the street's going to be paved. It wasn't paved in the fall. They said they were waiting for that. Now, I don't know if we're on the spring paving list, but if it's not done this year, I don't know what's going to happen, because across the street from me, every time it pours, there's a pond forms over there, and all that comes down on my property, because there's no curb there. So it's all washed away. So I don't know what the story is, but
There is some stormwater remediation that's going to occur there. The boundary ended at Hawthorne Street, but I did speak to the engineers to move it over to Bulwer, because both Bulwer and Hawthorne have a parallel situation where the water comes down all of those sidewalks.
okay, yeah, 'cause that storm drain across the street from me, that's must be blocked or something, because every time it pours, I'm waiting
It
for
comes
ducks
out.
to show up over there.
It comes out of that drain.
Well, it doesn't come down, come out, it's not going in. It does after a while, but
Yeah, I think that's the way that the road is isn't there, there's a crown in the middle of the intersection, correct, that runs it towards your property?
hopefully it's taken care of. Thank you for your time.
Al Young?
Al Young, former owner, city resident. Talk about Meadow Brook Creek. Here we go again. The residents along the creek received notices of intent that the city plans to finish a 50-year project finally. We received this letter from a law firm registered outside the city limits. What is the problem with our solicitors in this building? We pay them, we have them on retainer. What are they doing? Or are they not intelligent enough to handle a project like this? I'm sorry. There's been absolutely no contact with the residents along this so-called project. The city's saying that they are going to do it whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, we're going to have to take it. We'll probably take it in the ear again. The notice states that the conduit will be 7 foot, but they don't tell us whether it's going to be a 7 foot by 1 foot, 7 foot by 3 foot, 7 foot square. There is absolutely no communication between the city and the residents as to what they're going to do. There are no details. There is no meeting about this project to let us know what on earth is going to happen and on what century it's going to happen. We've been waiting over 50 years for it. Also, reading the letter, there is no mention of the wall on Ryerson Avenue. And it's since they finished the project next door to me last year, it has moved over an inch. But that's okay. It's still falling. When it does, the city residents up there, we're going to hold their hands wherever the sun doesn't shine. The city needs to be more proactive and get meetings with the residents to show what is proposed. I'd like to know, because when I saw the schematic for my property, we finally got the creek to run straight. There are 4 different curves in this proposed unit on my property alone. And what happens when you run water against curves? It puts pressure on it. Who's the engineer? I'm sorry, I just can't handle it. The city spent over $750,000 on the temporary repair. Is this going to go against what is owed for the final repair? I hope so. I really do hope so. And I think the city owes the residents an explanation of intent, not just eminent domain, whether you like it or not. The schematic shows they're going to take 916 feet of my backyard as a permanent easement. What? Come on. For a 7-foot conduit? They've got to get real. So you've got eminent domain, you've got permanent easement, and we're given a temporary easement. What are we going to do? I'm sorry, folks. I really have a hard time with what the city is doing on this project. I know I've waited a long time. I've complained about it a long time. And it's about time somebody gets on board and lets the residents know. I still have the schematic from the temporary repair. And it's nothing like what I've seen in the drawing that I have right now. Let's get real.
Mr.
There's a
Young.
lot of money involved in this program. Somewhere, something has to be done.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
the question on the wall, Riley and Associates did confirm that the wall on Ryerson is going to be included with the project.
Amen. I'm waiting for the one piece that's in my backyard to fall. Next rainstorm, it might be in my backyard. So, and we're measuring it. The resident on Ryerson Avenue and I are keeping tabs on this. So let's hope that runs in this project. Thank you.
Mr. Voldenberg, can we find out from the administration if they could have a town hall meeting, something like that, where they could provide the information on the project to the residents that are affected by Meadow Brook?
I'll ask that question.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
schedule it.
Dorothy Edwards?
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council and Scranton government. I am here to, I'm from Scranton. I am here today to emphasize the pressing need and community desire to establish outdoor fitness courts for the 76,000 residents of Scranton through the National Fitness Campaign Organization. A link is provided to watch afterwards an official NFC video detailing the impact of an outdoor fitness court. Last year, I discussed this initiative with Mayor Paige Cognetti. At the time, she informed me that the city had other priorities. However, I'm here today to reignite the discussion and push forward the movement to bring outdoor fitness courts to Scranton. Fitness courts already exist in Pittston, Peckville, and Berwick. Why is Scranton lagging behind in this health and wellness initiative? In 2024, we should not be trailing behind in promoting a healthy lifestyle. The popular quote, 2024 and more, should include a network of outdoor fitness courts in Scranton, Pennsylvania. This outdoor fitness court began with the conversation between Pittston Mayor Michael Lombardo and Mayor Paige Cognetti. It has since been neglected and has waited for me to move this into action and to fruition. Previously, there was talk of placing this fitness court possibly at the University of Scranton Field on Hickory Street. However, I have identified 6 other ideal locations. The end of South Washington Avenue past the strip stores on the right-hand side, the corner of West Meridian Avenue and Elm Street, another location on Meridian Avenue across from the Dollar General store, Manila Avenue adjacent of North Sumner Avenue, the vacant CVS lot on Main Avenue, and 1342 Providence Road across from the Axon and Dunkin' Donuts store. These locations are strategically chosen for their accessibility and proximity to neighborhoods. Scranton is a large city and having multiple fitness courts ensures no one has far to travel to exercise. 1 outdoor fitness court is insufficient and 2 is just barely adequate. Who will benefit from these courts? Let me share you a personal story that highlights this need. Several years ago, police were called to Tripp Park on Dorothy Avenue when my son, a black male in his mid-30s, was profiled as a threat while stretching during a walk. He was minding his own business, yet someone felt threatened by his presence. If there had been an outdoor fitness court nearby, such as the proposed nearby location on Manila Avenue, this incident could have been avoided. Aside from that, the main groups in dire need of these fitness courts are individuals with physical, mental health issues and low-income residents who cannot afford gym memberships will greatly benefit from it. These courts will elevate the overall health of our community, which offer free, accessible exercise options for all. A recent statistic that was reported by PA News that 4 PA cities top the 100 list for obesity. Scranton places 4th, having 44% in obesity. According to the CDC and WHO, by 2030, it is estimated that 50% of Americans will be obese. Attaches the link to the report. John Corley, a PhD professor at Cornell University who is a Scranton native, discussed at the University of Scranton recently the economics of obesity and risky behaviors, which is a factor and a benefit. These 2 reports are immediately evidenced an urgency for establishing the outdoor fitness courts. The outdoor fitness courts is a lifetime changer. It has changed lives in other communities, and it will in this one. We are at a critical juncture. The need for an outdoor fitness court is urgent and significant. Too much time has passed without progress, depriving our community of the opportunity for optimal physical and mental health. Establishing these fitness courts will make a positive, far-reaching contribution to Scranton. I have spoken with the Scranton School District Board of Directors and the executives at the Commonwealth Health Regional Hospital who fully support this project. To note, I reached out to Geisinger and the Wright Center, to which they both declined support in this initiative. As we approach the presidential election in November, I urged you to consider what President Biden might say about this initiative for his beloved hometown. I believe he, along with First Lady Jill Biden, would support it. I also look and wait to hear from Senator Matt Flynn and Congressman Matt Cartwright on this. Imagine the positive impact of initiating a vibrant, healthy Scranton community before Biden's potential reelection. He advocates for sustainable and healthy living, and this initiative aligns perfectly with those values. S stands for slow, as this process has been. S also stands for speed, step up, and step on it. So let's sprint and steam ahead for Scranton. Let's make this initiative a reality for the betterment of this community. Let this be a victory for a healthy and moving community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Virgil Argenta?
Good evening, Council. Virgil Argenta, Scranton. Last year at this time, I presented photos showing the condition of the Washburn Street Cemetery. A year later, it's still in the same condition, if not worse. Allow me to ask, when a resident comes to City Council and presents a concern or an issue, is it taken seriously? And is there ever any follow-up? There have been many times a presented issue has gone unaddressed. So instead of it being addressed, it becomes a news story. Will City Council request code enforcement be dispatched to the Washburn Street Cemetery and see what the city can do to assist or organize the cleanup?
Mr. Argenta, I was going to bring that up in fifth order. I got an email from a concerned resident about this with some pictures that I already forwarded to Mr. Voldenberg about it. So
Thank you.
it's in motion.
The sad part is Hillary Clinton's dad is buried there, and she has the audacity to call a certain group of people deplorables. School's out in 2 weeks. Any movement on the curfew ordinance? Or is that something of interest? So that the police officers can do their job when there's juveniles roaming the streets at night? Has anyone driven by GCMC lately? At any given time, there seems to be a backup of ambulances in the emergency area. Can anyone inquire if everything is running as it should be with the ER room at GCMC? Ambulance response. Is there a point person for the ambulance companies that service the city of Scranton that could provide response times to the city and when there is a shortage of ambulances covering the city? And if the city is notified if there is no ambulance available for the city, lately there's been some question on whether there's an ambulance in service for the city. West Scranton Skate Park. If they're going to leave the dangerous, unsafe equipment in place, will they at least go and shut the lights off so we taxpayers aren't paying the utility bill? Now it's like a light show. Both lights are going on and off. There seems to be a lawsuit with the Scranton Police Department regarding promotional testing. Is anyone aware of this lawsuit? And where are we at with this in the court system? And if we're found to be liable, who's paying for that? How many members are required for the Civil Service Commission? How many members are currently on the Civil Service Commission? And how many members were on the Civil Service Commission when the LEAB test was changed to the NTN? And did it need civil service approval before the change? Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you. That's all that's on our sign-up list. Does anyone else wish to address council?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. First thing I want to do is put out a little community notice. A couple of days ago, back on the 3200 block of Cedar Avenue, we had a small black bear that was wandering through the neighborhood yards. So back near the end of Manuka, where it goes down towards the Kmart, we evidently have a black bear wandering around in the community. Just to be cautious of your animals that you let out and anyone at night, because you might walk in and walk out to a black bear. Now, first off, I want to talk about violence in the city. Yes, we've paid for a roadmap, a consultant roadmap based on other areas of multiple states. And I'm sure the results will be just about ready to be produced just after the next renewal for the contract is due. I left City Council last week, and on the way back to Manuka, I noticed 2 ambulances, 4 cop cars, and 3 people sitting on the ground. This was at Hickory Street across from the Salvation Army on the South Washington side of the river. I stopped and found out that these teenagers were involved in a fight. Well, at the University of Scranton basketball court, one of the younger teens was yelled at by the adult males using the court there from the basketball courts to perform on them. Words happened, the younger kids left and were jumped at the train tracks, 2/10 of a mile from the police station. I've been in the South Washington Street area at the Salvation Army. It's extremely underlit and has been for a long time. And it is the only path from the fields to the Southside Shopping Center and up to Center City. That entire section is dark and hazardous. One of the kids went to the hospital to be checked on because he had his head stomped on. His guardian who arrived insisted on it. One of the juveniles, a witness, was pacing outside the circle of 7 police officers. One did not like this and ordered her back to sit down. She told the police officer not to touch her, but he pursued, escalating and threatening the teen. The most horrific statement he said, and I'm paraphrasing it, is, "When I tell you to come here, you do so, and I will put my hands on you if I need to. If you have a problem with that, you can tell your parents, and they can file a complaint and sue me." We all know police have qualified immunity, even if the teen is not aware of that. As this was a threat, escalation, not de-escalation, and in my opinion, abusive, but no other officer stepped in to intervene. And this is why police get a bad name and people fall into gangs. Because when police threaten the victims who no longer feel safe, they wind up going from the police and joining gangs for protection. Maybe in the next election, the mayor can run on being tough on thinking about a further study on doing something about violent crime. Now, I also have a question that's bothering me. The police contract now has built into a waiver of residency. Who authorized this? How can an administration make an agreement that violates the city charter? I understand that rules are only rules if someone is willing to enforce them. But I'm puzzled how a police union contract can violate the city charter, and this was blessed as okay. I understand some are blessed with sidestepping the rules and being covered. This is not the first and last time we'll hear of it, I'm sure. And we will investigate so the issue is covered up and never reported on, because investigations are blocked from exposure by the right to know law. Last, I did receive the listing of the unsheltered task force. I understand that all of these groups have knowledge of the homeless, not unsheltered, in the community. But I also see that every one of these groups are hogs at the trough. They have a vested interest in decisions. All of them have direct conflict of interest. The task force, as a group, is a direct beneficiary and are going to advise how to get more money and funds for those particular nonprofits. There are 44 members on the task force, and we have less beds available in this community on a nightly basis than the number of the consulting body for this task force. How can that be? Good night.
Anyone else wish to address council?
Yes, you guys already know my name, Ant Marquise. I come here because I hear we have a lot of violence in the community. Everybody's talking about violence, gangbanging, and things of that nature. I've also heard that we didn't have a community watch list, so I set one up on Facebook. If you guys want to just report any crimes to the watch list on Facebook, you could do that. Look it up, the City of Scranton Community Watch List. So that's one solution there. As far as the gangbanging goes, I spoke about this, I think 2 weeks ago. You know, we can have a city community event. Listen, this woman right here, she said that how can you understand to reach the gangbangers, right? Or the homeless people if you've never been in that situation. Well, I have on both ends. I've been homeless, you guys know that from last year, and I've been in gangs, you understand? So I know how to talk to these people more than anybody else. I talk their language. As soon as I speak, they all listen because I walk and talk and I look like them. You know what I'm saying? But the difference is that I'm up here now and I'm trying to make a difference in the community. I just got into a big ordeal with everybody at the pavilion down by Turkey Hill because I was trying to get them to stop littering and stop smoking and drinking down there at the pavilion. I have it on camera. I put it on the community watch list. You guys can look it up on YouTube and Facebook if you want to. So I just got into that. I'm out here getting into all types of stuff, just trying to help our city. But here's the thing. I called the police to stop the violent threats. And the police, they not even pulling up. What's up?
Can you take it down a little bit? You're hurting my ears.
Am I too loud? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Am I too close to the mic?
Yes, back up a little, maybe that'll help.
So that's what I'm saying, man. Like we need the police on call, on dial, like right away. As soon as a crime happens, show up and pull up. And on top of that, we need a community event to stop this violence. I could be used as a public speaker or a musician to reach these people. And I see the gangbangers every day at CIC. They all shake my hand. The homeless people all shake my hand. They all respect me because I give food and clothes to them all the time. So here's the solution, guys. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
That's it.
Good evening, gentlemen. Just a quick question while I was here for the zoning meeting we had. I'm a city business owner and resident. I own a home here also. Mr. Smurl, you were at the meeting that we had a few months ago about the flooding in front of my business that's been going on for 50 to 60 years. I've been there for 23 years with my business, and I was just curious when they said the grant money was available to fix this problem, if it was going to happen, if there was any update on that project.
I'll have to check with the city engineer because that's where it is now. I haven't followed it that close.
Okay.
So I will inquire.
I would appreciate it. I know that whole block there has been dealing. I mean, my business turns into a lake. I know
Yes.
you're very familiar with it, and any help would be appreciated.
Yeah, I know that we can't do that entire project all the way up, but I know we were concentrating on that lower end.
Right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident and taxpayer. Been hearing an awful lot of people coming up here and screaming corruption, and I'm kind of tired of it myself. Unless you have an incident where you caught somebody taking money, or at least a credible witness to somebody demanding money, let's back it up a little bit. I mean, I disagree with people here all the time, but I don't use that kind of language on people, especially if I can't prove it. Actually, I could be sued, so I keep that in mind. Pave cuts came up last week, and one of our problems that I see with pave cuts is that they cut into the pavement, and you could see where the saw, it's not filled, where the saw ended. And that's an entry for water and potholes, future potholes of America. So my idea is, why don't we skip it a little bit with the quality of life baloney and send people out to inspect all pave cuts and make them get a permit for that. It's ridiculous. They constantly set us up for poor roads maintenance, and then once it starts pushing up, there's nothing you can do. You're going to be back there every year with cold patch, and it lasts maybe 2 weeks, if you're lucky. There's an interesting article, and a person I know, or a friendly acquaintance, Bev DeBarros, was here last week about prisons. And I don't call them correctional facilities. They're prisons, and that's it. Charging 3 cents a minute for somebody to read a tablet, because somebody might put a period in there that's just chock full of LSD into a book or something. Report chastises state prisons food service. We have people going to prison, losing weight. We have people eating spoiled food. We have people buying black market mystery meat inside the prison. I met a person that spent 41 days getting shipped down to sorting out recycling, and he lost 20 pounds in 41 days. And then he had some kind of infection on his arm. Who knows what that was, staph or strep or something more exotic, very possibly. So, whenever you get a society that insists on imprisoning large amounts of people for moral reasons or things like that, they usually, after the prisons start to cost so much that the citizens don't want to pay for it, and then human rights suffer and constitutional rights suffer. So it's something to consider. I'll drop this off with you after. Now back to my pet peeve, 501c3s and 4s, tax exempts. Last week I mentioned Moms for Liberty. They're banning books left and right. Anything with any 1984, they had an illicit affair between Winston Smith, and I don't remember what the girl's name was, and she was a member of the Young Anti-Sex League. So they snuck off into the slum section and rented themselves a little room occasionally, and they wound up being tortured and in prison for it. And it's just, so they had that book removed. I guess the moral of this story is I want my kids to grow up and be as stupid and ignorant as I am. Thank you and have a good night. Why do we have to give them a tax break? I don't know.
Anyone else?
Hello, Council. I took your suggestion a couple weeks ago. I went to the election board because these Biden signs, I don't think they should be there. But now I think there should be an easier way to get some sort of legislation, because just like everything else, you know, I go there, oh, you have to write a letter. All right, I write a letter to the solicitor, and then I get the letter back. It says, you have to get your own solicitor who knows a lot about election laws, and it was two different things. I have to get somebody who knows about the Department of Transportation. Well, I have to get that kind of lawyer, and for the city, I have to get another kind of lawyer. I don't know. Is there anybody here who just would like to see at least the Biden signs in the streets of Scranton removed? Is anybody on this council for that? No? Is there any? No one's for it. Okay. Well, I just see the process of how we got these Biden signs. I just think people should have a better in-thing of the government, especially the differences between the Scranton government and the next level of government, the county government, and then the state government, and then the federal government. And, you know, I understand that the signs are probably there to impress Joe when he comes here, but the way they went up, you know, and the way they come down are two completely different things. I think looking at all the problems I've seen, it comes down, you know, I'm talking to Scranton right now. You're the Scranton body. You're the Scranton legislative body. And it has to be, you got to take it back. And from what I see, it's the Scranton Charter. Things of it have been in place for a long, long time. And, you know, I talked about Scranton Housing Authority. I know all about it, the history of it, the beautiful history of it. You know, one of the mayors of this city ran it for like 50 years after he was mayor, Mayor Durkin, after he was mayor from 22 to 26, 50 years he's running it. And it's beautiful. And the buildings, when I see these buildings, you know, I go around taking pictures of buildings because I know that so many of them have disappeared. And this is a treasure, and this is the city of Scranton, you know. But you sell it out to the school, you know, and that's another sort of government, and it's destroying the city. As far as HUD, you know, I'm trying to find out who owns the HUD building. I'm finally told by the solicitor here it's owned by HUD. Well, that's just not true. What is true is they call it HUD. It's a fear mechanism. It's just fear. We're the federal government, we're HUD, but they don't do any of the rules that they're supposed to do. And legally, there's a big discrepancy between the HUD lease that they have, where it says that you you're supposed to have access to the county and the city facilities, code enforcement. That's what I'm talking about. And they're doing construction for 2 years, and I'm living in complete hell. And then I get evicted by these people. And there has to be some way to look into where people can have an idea, get it to you, and not you just sending me over to the election board to get a lawyer.
Thank you. Just state your name for the record. We didn't get it when you first came
Rick
up.
Little.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
Yep, thank
Anyone
you.
else? We're good?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
Just a few comments. I think we all received an email about the dedication of the new park on Linden in Wyoming. That's going to be at 4 o'clock on Friday, May 31st. There's going to be a public dedication. Now, we've been waiting for that for quite some time. So that's going to be this Friday, 4 p.m. Lighting seems to be an issue. I know that Mr. Coyne brought it up this evening. It was also brought up to me about Providence Road down past Memorial Stadium and headed toward Weston Field. If we could have somebody from, I don't know if it would be the DPW or the police department, really take a look at that lighting situation down there, see if there's something that can be done to address that situation.
I will, Mr. King.
I know curfew ordinance has been brought up a few times. Perhaps we can take a look at and do a little research and see what some other cities are doing and possibly consider an ordinance moving forward. So I'll ask our solicitor. I have some information I could forward to him that might be helpful with respect to that. And also the skateboard park issue with the lights on top of the fact that the skateboard park is, I don't know, something's got to be done with that situation up there because it's not good. It's not.
Excuse me, Mr. King, I believe we got a response to the skate.
Oh, we did?
That's correct. We were advised that the dangerous equipment was removed.
Okay.
And they're looking into the lighting problem on the building.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry, I did not hear that, so, okay. I think that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes. Just talked about lighting. I know that section of Providence is dark down in that area. We also brought up, Frank, me and you were working on it about a year or two ago it was like the corner of Birch and South Washington. We did get some answers on that because we tried to get a light put up near the Salvation Army there, but I think we got a response back that they weren't going to put the light.
That's correct. They said it was not available.
All right, thank you.
Not
I
needed.
didn't assume that you would know the answer offhand, as it was quite some time ago, but.
But I'll pass you along the original answer for your record.
All right, thank you. Some of the things I was going to cover tonight, we already discussed the wall on Ryerson Avenue that will be in the Meadow Brook project. I wanted to talk about pave cuts. So a few weeks ago, I asked about information on pave cuts. I felt that some of the roads weren't being restored to the way that they should have been. I asked for some of the revenues that we've gotten from 2021, 22, 23, 24, and got to take a deep dive after I got that information. So I'm just going to give some of that information out. So in 2020, the city budgeted $355,500 in pave cuts. That year, we brought in $324,926 as of September. If we average that out, we should have got about $259,000. We probably went a little bit over our budget, what was budgeted that year for pave cuts. The following year, we upped what our line item for pave cuts is, $402,500. And that year, we brought in about $187,000. So 2021 to 2020 to 2021, we're short on pave cuts. We get into 2022, even though what we've received in revenues has gone down, in 2022, the city decides to up our line item to $425,000. In that year, we do see an uptick. We see about $221,000 come in for pave cut revenues. Now, something changes in 2023, and I did have Mr. Voldenberg look into what we projected in 2023 and 2024. As they weren't included in the budget, they didn't put those line items in there. But as for 2023, we got about $82,382 in pave cuts. So we're talking at least $200,000 under. This year, we received year-to-dates for February. Right now, we're about $20,222 in pave cuts. We're on pace to make our 2023 year. So if we stay on the pace that we're at, we're going to make about $80,000 on pave cuts, down from $359,000 in pave cuts. So when it comes to a question for the administration, Mr. Voldenberg, can we ask what we're going to do about maybe permits that haven't been applied for, or revenue that the city is looking for that we haven't received as of yet? What we're going to do for 2022 or 2023 and 2024. Thank you very much, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I do. First, since I wasn't here at the start of the meeting, I just wanted to bring up the Scranton City Pride Week, not to be confused with Pride Month, which is the LGBTQ Pride Month, which is also coming up for June. But the first week of June is City Pride Week, and there are a lot of cleanups going on throughout the city. So I definitely would encourage residents who are interested to take a look at the different cleanups, see if there's one that they want to join. And then we're also doing, again, the Garbage Olympics. That's happening Saturday, June 8th, and there's a few different groups that are involved with that. I think Scranton Tomorrow, NeighborWorks, and the UNC, and it's going to be focused in both the Pine Brook neighborhoods and West Side. And so you can join on the Garbage Olympics, and then these different groups are going to compete to see who can get the most garbage. And it was something I participated in previously and hope to do this year again. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. And I believe the website for it is garbageolympics.org, if you want to take a look at further details on that. Next thing I wanted to bring up, just wanted to respond to some of the concerns that Ms. Jeffries had brought up, some of the questions she had. The meeting that I was at, they didn't have the full task force there. I don't know, maybe there were like 15 people present. There were certainly people of color who were there. I don't know if anyone there was homeless or if they'd previously been homeless, but as I mentioned last week, there were a lot of people who were a part of the organizations, the nonprofits who were providing services to the homeless and the unsheltered. So I don't think it's wrong for those people to be there, because we're trying to figure out what other services are needed, who's going to be providing them, figuring out additional shelters. So we need those people there too. But I do agree that we need to find ways to include the homeless and unsheltered population in the conversations to make sure that we're meeting their needs. It was the first meeting that I had been to, so that might have been a part of the conversations before that I might not be aware of, but to see a plan put in place for how to do that. And I'm also not aware of a specific action plan either, but I would also like to see one. So thank you for the questions about that. And then I also just wanted to make a note. One of the speakers had brought up the idea of outdoor fitness centers, and I was really interested to hear more about that. I have visited other cities that have outdoor fitness equipment, like Harrisburg, along the river there, they have a trail, and they've got throughout the trail, you can run on the trail, and then you can also stop at different sections of it and use the fitness equipment. So I think that's a really neat concept, and I didn't realize that Pittston had such a such a park or area. Maybe that's, I don't know if that was something included in conversations when we were talking about ARPA funding. I know it's not something that ARPA funding would be able to be allocated towards now, but I do think it's a really interesting idea and something that I'd like to discuss more with the administration, with Parks and Rec for the future, to see if that's something that we could do as a city, and that could really encourage people towards a healthy lifestyle, and perhaps people who can't afford a gym membership, that's somewhere that they could utilize to stay fit. And that's all that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
I have a couple. So I received a couple complaints from some residents I'm going to pass on to you, Mr. Voldenberg. On 3103 McCarthy Street, there's a house there that caught fire over 10 years ago. All right, neighbors are complaining. The yard's a mess. Nothing has been done. These neighbors see some of the inspectors drive past that many times. But they've called over town, and they're getting no response. So could you please look into that one for me?
I will, sir.
Also, complaints again about the old Castle restaurant up in North Main Avenue. A lot of suspicious behavior going on there. If we can please alert the police department and see what's going on up there.
I will.
And the pave cut question. So I posed a couple last week as well. Revenue-based from the utilities. I know Mr. Schuster got some numbers. I wanted the past 6 months. But on my own, I found out that in 2020, it was $500,000 in revenue. So this is alarming. And I also asked, of course, we didn't get any responses, correct?
We did not.
Where the money goes, what accounts, a certain account for it. So please, circle around and ask. We're definitely waiting for these answers because it's important. We're losing revenue.
I will, Mr. McKenna.
We should know why we're losing this type of revenue in 4 years. It's absurd. Also, so I know we had this, maybe I just don't remember the answer, but who owns the large bridge on Lackawanna Avenue comes into the city? Is it PennDOT? Is it us? Who maintains it? Or who's responsible for it? Because I got a couple complaints about that the sidewalks on the bridge are very dangerous. And there's mothers with strollers that are having some problems. Very concerned resident about it says, it's actually unwalkable. So I don't remember who actually owns or maintains it for sure. So for clarity's sake, could you just reach out and find out and see when they're going to maintain this, or whoever's responsible, and we should probably get on them for that.
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you. So I have another concern about a bridge. It's the bridge that connects River Street and East Mountain Road. Also, whose responsibility is that? The state or the city, for clarity's sake, because there's a lot of vegetation that needs to be sprayed. The catch basins have heavy growth, plus a lot of new green growth all throughout the bridge. And then last year, there was actually a tree coming out of one of the catch basins. So for clarity's sake, and just, alert the proper departments, and let's finally find out who's responsible for these two bridges and make sure that...
I will. That's generally on PennDOT's schedule, but I'll follow up.
All right, well, just check on it for me, please. Thank you. Also, I got a complaint about Washburn Street Cemetery, and this is yearly, and it's sad, and it's more than yearly. I remember it coming up all the time. And I got a complaint, like I mentioned to Mr. Argenta, not from him, but from another concerned resident, that, every year, there's no caretaker there that can be seen. And the grass hasn't really been cut for 2 years. And, we hold everybody else in the city to a different standard with regards to blight and issuing warnings or whatever. Even the poor residents that were underwater up in Kaiser Valley got a warning a couple weeks ago. So we need to find out once and for all that this owner of this cemetery is held to the same standard. And I sent you pictures that are unbelievable. I already sent this to you earlier, but the pictures are ridiculous. You can't see some of the tombstones. They're gone. It looks like they're gone. So could you please, contact or alert whoever has to be alerted and have some dialogue with the cemetery, because it's just not fair with all the other residents that are held to a different standard.
I sent that out this morning after receiving your email, along with the property owner information to code enforcement.
All right, well, thank you. That's
I'll
all I
follow
have.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew.
Sorry, Mr. Smurl,
Yes,
I
go
had one more thing to say. Mr. Voldenberg, we got an email about 734 Theodore Street. Some of the pictures that they sent were some crumbling foundation or gaps in the foundation. I did go past the house. The front of it was newly remodeled, but there are some condemned signs on the house and some other code enforcement paperwork on the door. If we could just get a status on 734 Theodore Street.
I'll get that for you.
And then one other thing I forgot. So on top of what the administration is going to do about the lost revenue and pave cuts, can we also ask why there was the big drop-off in 2023 leading into 24, about why those revenues have gone down so much? And then Mr. McAndrew, I know, asked last week about how much Riley Associates is going to charge for the pave cut inspections. Could we find out what line item that's going to come out of in the budget as well?
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Everything I've had moved into the proper committees and Mr. Voldenberg this week, so that is all. Mr. Voldenberg?
5B for introduction and ordinance, amending the Scranton Abington's Planning Association Intergovernmental Cooperative Implementation Agreement.
At this time, entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction and ordinance, ratifying and approving an intergovernmental agreement of cooperation and memorandum of understanding between the City of Scranton and Borough of Dunmore regarding the coordination of stormwater mitigation and state compliance for Dunmore properties subject to the Meadow Brook project.
At this time, entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a memorandum of understanding with Scranton Redevelopment Authority.
This time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I got a couple questions on this. So I'm looking at the resolution, and for clarity's sake, this is a lot of money. It's almost $1 million. And it's really not explained how much is going to, what is actually for. I mean, or how projects, how many, or any projects. Like, did this board come to the mayor and say, hey, we could use 900 grand because we have all these projects lined up? So I'd like a little more explanation on what's going to be done. And I'm also looking at this resolution, and I have a question for Solicitor Gilbride to look into. So, so we were given money, ARPA money, the city has to, distribute based on, criteria. We have Answer, we have that watches over that. We have, I think, another company in Luzerne County that watches over them, that watches over us. But is it okay to be given money from ARPA, an entity, the city, and then give it to another entity to disperse? Is that allowed? I'm curious if you could please look into that. All right. And then, so, I'm sorry, I highlighted a couple things here. So, and I know it was brought up tonight, why North Scranton? I don't know, maybe it says that the funds are to be used for economic development initiatives in targeted areas. So this is on the census tract, I believe. I'm not sure. So, but another question I had is, so this legislation is coming now for us to give 900 grand away to another board or authority, right? But when these projects are determined, do these projects come back down to us for approval? Initially, when we talked about ARPA early on, that any time it was either moved or used for something else, how it's dispersed had to come before council. But I just hope, I just want clarity's sake that we give 900 grand to this authority, and when these projects come up, are they going to come down for our final approval? And if I look at it like, okay, so March, the agreement of the period for the, the funds is March 3rd, 2021 to September of 2024. All right? So they have to be allocated by then. And then they must be expended by September of 30, 2026. So that's a short time frame to come up with all these projects to utilize that 900 grand. If you could just have all them questions posed and see if we get some answers on it. Because it's a lot of money. I just want to make sure we're doing it right.
Also on the question, I would love to see the renderings of exactly what the skate park is going to look like. And did they consult the neighbors concerning exactly what's going to be going there?
There's an outreach that they have to do first for that, so that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. I would, I'm in favor of introducing this, and I would like to see the rendering of exactly what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, I believe they're going to ask all the neighbors first, and then come up with something. But on 5D2, I also have interest and questions in what is the $925,000 going to be used for? Are we going to see that before it's all funded? And I would also like to know if we are going to be held accountable for the money after we move it, because it is ARPA money. So is the city going to be held accountable for that money and the way it is spent?
I'm glad those questions have been raised, because I wrote down that question as well. Are we going to go through the same scrutiny that we do with all of the other projects once this money goes through the redevelopment authority? So one of the comments that was asked in public tonight is, why is it limited to North Scranton? And I'll just give you my thoughts quick, but I would like to get the answer to that question officially from the administration. There was a streetscape project that money from the ARPA money was dedicated towards. It was to do Providence Square as well as that area. I think when it came to the census tracts, there was a cutoff point that it may have been from Providence Square moving towards North Scranton Junior High School, and maybe moving towards Shifts was outside of the census tract. So they said they were going to find other types of money to fund that streetscape project. I don't believe it was this money that was to fund that project, but now we see that it's going to the redevelopment authority. Possibly it's to replace the streetscape project, but I would like to know the answer to that question as well. It states that the money is going to be used for housing opportunities in North Scranton. I'd love to see any kind of renderings, any kind of plans that for housing opportunities that may be in North Scranton. The legislation, it appears to offshore to the redevelopment authority work that the city is currently doing itself. So very similar actions are occurring now with our ARPA funds. We're seeing the city disperse these funds, and could we just get an explanation of, is this a duplication, or why they're putting it through the redevelopment authority? And then the next piece is, with ARPA funds, there's administrative costs. So are there administrative costs associated with this funding? Are there administrative costs that are associated with the transactions from this funding? What percentage of this over $900,000 can be utilized for administrative costs, and who will be receiving those administrative funds?
I'll ask those questions.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Schuster.
much, Frank. I know it's a lot for 5D.
On the question, I just wanted to add that I had many of the same questions, although I think it's exciting that this could be used towards a potential, affordable housing project. But I think we need more detailed information about what the project's going to be to help us with this legislation.
On the question, for clarification, my comments were actually directed toward 5E, the skate park.
Yeah, I know.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
we got it.
Apologize for that. I was a little ahead of myself there, but I agree with all the comments of my colleagues here on council. I think we have a lot of questions that need to be answered. Certainly in favor of introducing this evening, but would look forward to having a number of those questions answered before we move it forward after that.
Thank you for saying that. I'm going to be adamant about this one. Over $900,000 is a lot of money, and if we don't get answers to these questions, I will not be voting in the affirmative for this piece of this resolution.
Same here.
Mr. President, can I address Councilman Schuster in regard to one of his questions? According to the agreement, Mr. Schuster, the administrative costs relative to this agreement require express written approval by the city and cannot exceed 10% of the award.
I assumed it was 10%, yeah. Thank you for getting that.
$92,500.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor of an introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Artisan Skate Parks to perform services for Weston Field Skate Park design and build.
At this time, entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, we did have some things that arose in public comment tonight. If we could get answers to these, Mr. Voldenberg, it would be the city's legal liability for the equipment. Is there going to be supervision, and what will be the hours of operation?
I'll ask those questions.
Thank you very much, Frank.
On the question, you know, I'm happy to see that there was a bid that was awarded for this project. I used to skateboard myself, and my daughter has a little skateboard, and I'd be really excited to bring her to a place. And I also think many of our conversations that we've had over the past few months about finding ways to help young people and to keep them from, you know, entering like a life of violence is to give them some things to do. And we've talked about how the swimming pool could do that, you know, say basketball courts, and I think a skate park could also help to do that. And if we don't want people skateboarding around downtown or the courthouse, give them, you know, a place where they can do it. And I think it'd be great to see what they come up with, what kind of design they get there. So I'm excited to see that.
Thank you. When I saw this come up about the skate parks and stuff, my first concern was, are we going to demolish the old bathhouses before we start doing a new project down there? So I had asked that question, and we are going to start demolition for both the bathhouse at Weston Park is going to be taken down this week or next week, and then they will be moving to Weston Field to remove the old pool and those old buildings, the old bathhouses. And then we can move forward with that other project. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a second agreement for collection of delinquent municipal claims on behalf of the city of Scranton with Portnoy Law Associates Limited.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, Frank, I'm sorry to be giving you so much tonight. It's been quite some time since we got an update on our delinquent collections, so could we get an update on delinquent collections with Portnoy up to this date?
I will, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Greenman Peterson, Inc. to perform engineering and design of the Lackawanna River Heritage Trail Bridge.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5H for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Judith G. Price, Esquire, to serve in the capacity of tax appeal hearing officer for the city of Scranton.
At this time, I entertain a motion that item 5H be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, filed to council number 18, 2024, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an easement with Marissa Linity to remove dangerous shrubbery resulting from the abutting city property of Powderly Park.
You have heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, filed to council number 17, 2024, to clean up the code of 2024, removing outdated provisions of Scranton City Code, including the repeal or amendment of provisions regarding birth certificates, defense counsel, library deed, Gulf Commission, gas piping standards, CETA bonding, air pollution control officer, city code availability, beasts of burden, housing supervisor, lead-based paint manager, private pool inspections, immunization travel cards, micro enterprise revolving loan program fees, plumbing code, construction code, contracting procedures, electrical code, and coal mining.
As chairpersons for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 46, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with McNeese, Wallace, and Nurick, LLC, to perform legal services for the American Rescue Plan Act Stormwater Project easements.
At this time, as chairperson for Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for Adoption, Resolution Number 47, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Nasser Real Estate and Appraisals, Inc., to perform appraisal services for American Rescue Plan Act Stormwater Project easements.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for Adoption, Resolution Number 48, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with D&M Construction Unlimited, Inc., to perform rehabilitation for Connell Park Pool.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, no business at this time.
I just want to add one thing on the Connell Park thing, the pool that is going to be done. We found out, I believe Friday, when they were up there trying to patch that and repair it again, that the plaster is actually now falling off of Connell Park Pool. So the plan going forward for the next pool openings and the splash pad is to extend the hours of the other pools that we have open, and we don't know where we stand exactly at this moment with Connell Park, if we can actually open it, or if we have to go directly into rehabbing it right now. We will know better once they get up there and look at it. If there is no further business at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned.